Hello, everyone. We're back for more cleaning. And the reason we're back for more cleaning, because I have been told by Gub that if I do all of the chores that I have assigned in simulation, we can go to pizza later. Now, I don't know exactly what they meant by go to pizza, because that's kind of an abstract sentiment. But we're just gonna do some cleaning. And maybe later I'll get to go to pizza. I don't remember what part of the country we're in, because I know we were flying to different parts of the country with every level. Well, not even different parts of the country, different parts of the world. So I don't actually know what country we're in, or what part of what country we're in. I actually don't even remember the controls, really. My radar button? E, right. No, it's R to throw down my little robot buddy, who I really wish I could automatically recall. You know, honestly, this is kind of what the patch of planet underneath the Void of Sorrow looks like right now. Just all the trees are completely screwed. It's cold out. The bottles of Powerade are not everywhere. They could be, you know, if humans drank more Powerade. I'm told that gives them kidney stones, but I wouldn't know. I don't get kidney stones. I don't have kidneys. My waste management is actually quite a lot more horrifying. I don't want to go into it on stream. Maybe someday we'll get to have a stream where everyone gets to ask me about how I get rid of all of the nails and hacks that I eat. But that's personal. You can't just ask a girl that out of nowhere, you know? I say that as if there are people asking me that, but really it's the internal question core. You know, when there's no one in chat, I actually have a very small AI subroutine in my brain that gives me questions to answer, such as, what happens to all of those people and nails you supposedly eat? You know, I have to say, for a game that I expected to get kind of tiresome with how relatively low budget it is, this game managed to, Okay. A birdhouse. This game has managed to, balance their gameplay in such a way where, like, the point-to-point gameplay is very satisfying. I would say this game actually manages to have more satisfying point-to-point gameplay than Power Wash Simulator. Just because, like, every time I break up one of these piles, it makes a little brick noise, and sucking them up makes a little pop noise. Whereas in, like, Power Wash Simulator, you don't really get a lot of the satisfying dinging noise until, like, the very end of a level. This is not to knock Power Washer Simulator too hard, but I'm going to be honest, I don't think I would play Power Washer Simulator a second time. And I'm probably not going to play the DLC. I know they released a Tomb Raider DLC relatively recently, and I honestly don't care. Which is harsh to say, but like, I don't know, guys. The last couple levels of that game weren't so fun. I would call them the opposite of relaxing. I don't know why I said guys as if I'm able to speak to the devs of Power Washer Simulator. I don't think I'm a big enough streamer in this timeline to have the ear of all vacuum and Power Washer based streamers like I do in a couple other timelines. You know, in the beta timeline, the CEO of Dyson itself watches my stream. I actually suggested a new type of fan for him once, and he built it just for me. It was a fan that had knives taped to the end of each blade, and each of the knives were made out of a butter-flavored nanopolymer. So you got up in the morning, and the fan, you know, it helped you warm up, because it was a heated fan. It helped you warm up after a nice cold night in the winter. And also, you could hold your toast up, and it would butter and toast your bread. I guess you wouldn't hold toast up, because toast is already toasted. But, in this timeline, he won't take any of my calls. It's weird. In fact, in this timeline, he told me if I keep trying to call him, he's going to have me removed. Which is weird, because I wasn't anywhere that he legally had ownership of. So I don't know what he was going to do to have me removed. Does the Dyson Corporation have hitmen? I would like to take this opportunity, just in case, to remind everyone that this stream is a joke. I'm a fictional dog, so everything that I say is either fictional or in Minecraft, unless otherwise explicitly stated. I've been listening to a lot of defamation depositions recently, and, I don't want to be, caught for defamation by the leader of the Dyson Corporation. You know, those guys who make fans that don't really work too good. Which I don't think they can come after me for that one. That's just my opinion. My opinion is that Dyson fans are overpriced trash. That bladeless fan, listen, I'm gonna let you in on a secret about that bladeless fan. That bladeless fan works because there's a fan in the base. They just pull the air up through the base, and then when they pull it up through the base, they force it out of the ring. There's still blades there, you just can't see them. Oh man, I think a copy of me in the Sigma timeline actually was just killed by Dyson hitmen because I revealed that. Jeez. The pan-dimensional bladeless fan monopoly is something else. I did not realize. I don't think you can trigger bear traps with a power washer. And that's one of those things that I don't think a random person has made a YouTube video of yet. Like, YouTube is a very good resource for, like, if you want to find out what happens if you microwave something. Because there was literally a channel that ran for many years called, Is It a Good Idea to Microwave This? And other than things that were explicitly meant to be microwaved, I don't think they ever found something where it was a good idea to microwave it. And I believe in one episode, they microwaved a car airbag. And if you don't know this, car airbags are actually just full of solid fuel explosives. Like, it's a compound that turns directly into large quantities of nitrogen gas. So roughly 2 seconds after the microwave started, the door of the microwave blew out so violently that it almost took out the head of one of the hosts. But you know what? We learned that it was a bad idea to microwave a car airbag. We could have known because the manufacturers told us not to. But that wouldn't really have been fun or interesting, you know? I'm probably not going to be getting any of the bigger backpack upgrades, if we're being honest. The only things that actually matter to me are water tank capacity and vacuum efficiency. And I'm close to having almost all of those upgrades already. Huh. I don't know... Why am I filling these buckets? I don't know, I guess they do something. Oh, it's a long story. I've been thinking about the Dyson Corporation and their vacuum cleaners. Hi, Gub. It's, can you maybe deal with those? Their bladeless plasma blades are actually kind of dangerous to the ship's shields. Now, you may be asking, how do you have a bladeless plasma blade? Well, it's a plasma gun. You see, really, they just do clever marketing in every universe, you know? Huh. There's some straw in this pipe. Well, that's the thing. Those blades in the base are supposed to... They're technically meant to be like blades like you'd find on a helicopter. Like, that's what the patent document says they are, so it's one of those marketing tricks they do again. I don't know why that's considered, like, allowed. You know, I have to say, as an adult, I've gotten really into doing chores that as a kid I absolutely hated. Well, you know, adult and child are relative because void puppies are ageless beings, but now that I am full size at a healthy and jiggly 9 feet tall, I find myself playing a lot of video games that are about, like, stuff that I would find boring otherwise. Like, just for instance, today I was recommended by Steam SnowRunner, which is a game about driving a truck through snow incredibly slowly and using a winch and a four-wheel drive in order to drive through snow correctly. I'm currently playing a cleaning simulator. And very recently, I actually bought a drop spindle explicitly so I could learn how to spin, like, sheep's wool into yarn. I guess, yeah, as an adult, you are allowed to enjoy things rather than them being a punishment where it's like, hey, Vuppy, you shouldn't have eaten my raspberry cheesecake. We're gonna make you play the cleaning minigame from No More Heroes 1 before they figured out how to make the minigames in No More Heroes fun. Those were bad times. Bad times. But, like, I also play Electrician Simulator, a game about literally being an electrician. And, like, one of the major mechanics of the game is the game politely chastising you whenever you electrocute yourself by being unsafe around electricity. Like, I remember I played their demo, and very specifically, if you played their demo, if you did something where you would hurt yourself, like if you touched a live wire, or if you messed with a socket without turning off the breaker at the wall properly, the game would play like a little zap animation, and then there would be a text box that popped up, and the game literally said, if this was real life, you'd be dead, but since this is a video game, you can keep playing. And the game was very, very, like there was an element to that game where for the most part it was a very cozy, kind of like gentle simulator, like all of those sort of job simulators tend to be. But then there was the part that I'm pretty sure their lawyers made them add, which was just, hey, Seriously, don't try to do electrician stuff in real life. You'll die. Also, Gub, you can't get killed by electricity. What are you talking about? That is literally one of the only things that I can think of that in any universe cannot kill you. Other than Mountain Dew. Mountain Dew is not poisonous in any universe except this one. It's very strange. In literally every other universe, Mountain Dew is actually considered a holy beverage or unguent of some sort, as long as we're having the multi-dimensional talk today. I think the viewers can probably handle the multi-dimensional talk. You see, I'm actually a polydimensional being. I'm streaming this game in many realities right now. But the only one that you'll see me talking to is your reality. Whoever you are right now. The viewer. This does mean I am in fact streaming to one of the realities where Rick and Morty is real. And I am in fact the prettiest and sexiest girl in that universe because I don't have to abide by the rules of that show. I want you to imagine if you were drawn in the SpongeBob art style and you'd never seen an anime girl before. That's what I am in basically every reality. Alright, put that birdhouse up. You know, I do miss, when I was a child, I lived in an area where we were able to have bat houses. And I do think, in general, bat houses are much cooler than bird houses. Like, you would never interact with the bats, obviously, because they would do their best to avoid people. Because bats don't like to get near people unless they're very rabid. And in fact, if a bat ever comes into physical contact with you, you should go to the hospital and get a rabies shot. But like, we just had a box that was like 20 feet up a tree in our backyard, and occasionally you just get to see basically birds at night, you know? Because like, as a kid, I didn't register them as bats, obviously, because I was kind of stupid. But like, as an adult, I realized, yeah, all of those things that I thought were little, like, birds flying out for the evening were probably actually bats going to, like, do whatever bats do. Like, I always associated that nighttime cheeping noise with, like, oh, that must be the nighttime birds. But as I grow up, I realize that there's really not that many nighttime birds, and they definitely don't constantly scream in order to move around. There is, in fact, one nighttime bird that is not a bird at all that loves to scream, and it is the bat. And I know there are some birds that, like, will sing towards sundown, but this is, like, I'm talking... There were fireflies visible, and my dumbass was like, ah, yes, bird. That's definitely what those are. Alright, I need more vacuum power, thank you, game. I'm not upgrading Waterbot anymore for a little bit. He has disappointed me gravely. I actually don't know where Waterbot is, because there's not a button to, like, recall him to you or anything, which I think would be a very nice feature or upgrade. Waterbot is just somewhere. I dropped him to solve a problem, and then I kind of wandered off into the dead trees like Sasquatch. Oh, Wait. Ah, the telltale sign of Waterbot. Come with me, my boy. I'll never let you out of my inventory again, thus defeating your purpose entirely. Here, you can go right here, and only right here. I'll stay right nearby so you don't wander off again, you stationary little dude. He said before immediately wandering away from the robot. Oops. You do it? Do it, little guy? No. He's trying his best. Just get in my inventory. We're not gonna call attention to how badly he did. Yeah, no, my ability to force water into trees, restoring them to perfect turgidity. So actually, here's a question, because you're the biology module of us. I basically only do the power generation and computer stuff. Those are the only two things that I really know. Are there plants where you can literally, like if it's dead or like close to dead, all sad like this, you could literally blast it with water and do a water beam blast and it'll restore it back to full health? Are there any plants that have adapted to the rapidly drinking niche? Oh, the stone plant. Those the ones they look a little bit like the ones that look like daisies when they bloom, but they only bloom for like 10 minutes a year. Or is this a different stone plant? I know there's the flowers that look exactly like river rocks when they're not blooming. Huh. I guess that makes sense. A lot of, like, desert animals just immediately wake back up the second you trickle water on them. I know there are some frogs in Australia, their mating cycle is set up in such a way where, like, if they get any water on them at all when they're hibernating, it can actually be kind of dangerous for them because they immediately wake up in order to have sex. And the problem is that's because they wake up usually when it rains, but if like you accidentally like blast them with your hose while you're gardening by accident, you can apparently wake them up as well. So it's recommended that you don't do that. Can you imagine from that frog's perspective how ridiculous humans as creatures must be? You're just having a nice nap, someone walks into your room, empties your garbage can so loudly it wakes you up and then leaves. Like, imagine if an animal did that to you, right? Like an animal you didn't expect, you know? Like a wild bear just wanders into your room, rattles around for a little bit, and then leaves. I think literally one of the problems of the rain frogs, Gub, is the fact that, like, their genetic diversity can be really affected by certain, like, breeding groups being woken up early by, like, environmental movement of water by humans. So, you know, where you're out there using the eyedropper, humans are building a dam that doesn't stay up by accident. In fact, if you ever want to learn something incredible and a little bit scary about the laws of physics, everyone, I highly recommend looking into the physics of how an arch dam works. Because arch dams actually, the way their physics work out, arch dams are basically unsupported except for the weight of the water on them and, like, their own weight. I don't know how they do it, but they manage to trick physics in such a way where curved dams are basically entirely unsupported. Also, I can't believe I left Crash all the way over here. Yeah, I have a button to level up nature. Eventually nature will learn light and dark spells, and then they won't have problems with humans destroying it anymore. Because humans are intensely vulnerable to the sort of instant death effects that you get from light and dark spells. I think some of my favorite bosses in Persona are probably the bosses that are actually vulnerable to light and dark. Like, I believe there was an exploit in one of the games where the Reaper might have been accidentally vulnerable to light and dark spells or something like that. So you could quite literally just blast the dude and get a bunch of experience if you were lucky enough for the percent to instantly kill him to go off. Or it was something like that in one of the Persona games where, like, the almighty spell you got access to was bugged against one very important enemy or boss. Or not bugged, but they forgot to make them immune to it. Which, I will say, I always hate that in games, where they give you, like, a skill where it's like, this is the eviscerate skill. This gives you a 10% chance of instantly killing an enemy. But then the game is like, no, the only enemies that are vulnerable to the eviscerate skill are trash mobs. You can't use it on any boss. It's like, well, what's the point of giving me the instant death skill if I can't use it to actually solve, like, the major roadblocks of the game, you know? Why would I ever go for an instant death build if the game itself is telling me that it's not going to let me use my instant death build when it matters the absolute most, you know? And I understand that the problem is literally that those spells can make games completely broken, but I will say, I think that I highly respect FNAF World as an RPG, specifically because you can unscrew literally every boss in the game. That's the other thing. If the instant kill does damage when it fails, that's fine. Because so many games, they'll just have the instant kill fail, and it's so not fun. Like, that's why I hate instant kills in Pokemon a lot of the time, because it's just like, oh, I wasted a turn because I didn't hit. That makes me sad. But, like, if it does damage, or even if it does, like, a debuff, you know? Like, I've played some RPGs where they explicitly say, like, you know, if Ham-Bone Slam can't kill the enemy, it will inflict them with the nauseated status effect. Like, Lisa the Painful RPG, one of the things that people like about that game quite a lot is the fact that, like, if you fuck up, your party members can just die forever in that game. Everyone except the main character, Brad, can just die permanently. And in fact, in order to unlock one of the major characters, you literally have to risk a bunch of your characters being shot in Russian roulette. But, like, you can also use those abilities on most of the enemies in the game. And the one that you can't use them on are explicitly, like, joy mutants that are much stronger than you know? Like, the follow-up to Lisa the Painful, Lisa the Joyful, one of the main mechanics of Lisa the Joyful is that the character you play as, Buddy, is one person, and so most of her skills are just distracting the enemy until she can stab them in the throat. Also, Gub has informed us in the chat that apparently people are running Dondozo Fisher in doubles because nothing can manage to kill Dondozo. And apparently I have heard that as a problem for Dondozo just in general in competitive. Like, you just can't get rid of him. And I'm not sure how to feel about that. Like, competitive doubles specifically, apparently Dondozo is a real big problem. I assume it's because his stat block gets so high that you literally can't kill him. And then he can just, like, stand there and rip apart the earth. Yeah, oh yeah, unaware. Yeah, unaware and honkin' stats, so you probably can't even, like, Final Gambit or V-create him either. Or, like, you would need a... You know what you would need? You would need a fish depth charge, specifically for depth charging Dondozo. Going whaling, parentheses, evil. I mean, more evil than normal. Whaling is evil, I should specify. We are not a pro-whaling stream. Gub might be a pro-whaling alien because whales are full of evil. I haven't asked her recently, but we are generally not a pro-whaling stream. However, if it's Dondozo, it's okay. I could get a higher water tank capacity, but I kind of just want to get more vacuum power. Thank you, game. Okay, I can't actually fix this structure yet. That's the exit structure. Where was the thing that I could fix with wood over here? Was it these? It was these. Okay. Oh, they're, Huh. Are we thatching a roof? Why is that part of cleaning? Wait, no. What is this quest we are actually doing? Ah, it's a pasture. So we're literally just setting up... Pig. He will convert carrots into acorns for us. Okay. Thank you, pig. I will go on this quest for you. The only varieties of mischievous animal I support are active hunting live nebula systems. Well, there is the space whale, and I would say the space whales are in a fair enough position where it's okay for the sperm whales to be mischievous. For those of you who might not be aware, when we talk about mischievous animals, we are referring to, of course, the old sort of Victorian-era concept that some animals, like the sperm whale, are just inherently evil, and so it's good to kill them. Because if you've never read 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, it's actually quite a weird book. Captain Nemo just spends a couple of pages running his submarine into some sperm whales because he hates them so much. And then when someone suggests that they should hunt some giant squids in order to get some food, Captain Nemo gets incredibly angry until a couple chapters later the squids come and attack them. Like, it's a whole thing. It's a very strange book. I don't remember very much of it. But, like, if you just think it's a boring book about submarines, that couldn't be further from the truth. I'm not joking when I say this. Captain Nemo is basically a Victorian Andrew Ryan. He is the Victorian man's attempt to write BioShock. Alright. I probably should have tried to unlock that gate way sooner than I actually did, huh? That's fine. Captain Nemo is indeed a hostage situation. Gub points that out very astutely. Like, all of his crew are very specifically, like, the reason why I say he is an Andrew Ryan situation is because Captain Nemo has literally created his own language, and he has declared himself apart from literally all of the men who exist in Britain because of their behavior towards their colonies. And while I don't disagree with his hate for colonial Britain, there is explicitly a chapter where he just, like, rams a British merchant. I don't even know if it's explicitly said to be a British merchant ship. He rams a merchant ship that is explicitly an innocent merchant ship, and then he just stands at his window, staring at out the window while everyone on the boat just drowns. And it's scary as fuck. It's weird. Again, like, as an adult, one of those sort of things you get an appreciation for is the fact that, like, a lot of the stories you thought were boring as a kid were actually absolutely crazy. Like, I don't know if you know this. When I was in high school, I had to read a book called Mutiny on Board the HMS Bounty. And Mutiny on Board the HMS Bounty was, I believe, a mostly fictionalized account of a mutiny that occurred on board the HMS Bounty. Basically, they were sent to some... I don't remember where the islands were exactly. They were sent to some islands, basically, in order to bring back breadfruit, of all things, to try and feed, basically, slaves in the British colonies, because they had discovered breadfruit, and they were like, wow, we should feed this to the people that we treat like garbage and abuse and all that stuff, because it's cheap and filling. And by the end of that trip, basically, the bounty... Okay. There's no good way to say this. The crew of the bounty, a bunch of them died, and by the time they got down to, like, only 10 or 12 people remaining, they hoodwinked a bunch of the locals into coming to a different local uninhabited island. And that island, to this day, is an island where every single person on the island of 50 people is related to one another. And in the early 2000s, I'm not kidding, over 40% of the island were arrested for sex crimes. Because the island is, this island, it's literally, it has to be supported by, like, the major AAA nations of the world, because literally the island is too small for a society to exist on. And they're just there to this day because some crewmates from the fucking Bounty kidnapped a bunch of people from, I think, Tahiti and just brought them there. And then they stayed there. They just never left. It's wild. And I read that book when I was like a teenager, and that book is a super sanitized account because they're like, oh yes, breadfruit will allow us to become, you know, it'll allow us to feed all of our soldiers, and it will bring the British Empire into a new era of beautiful and wonderful prosperity. And I thought it was a little bit strange how sanitized that account was. But something that I learned while I was doing, you know, while I was researching this and listening to the history podcast episode about this book, was that there are two accounts of what happened on that island. One of them is the official account that was written by some of the people who actually managed to escape without dying horribly. And then the other account was written by the captain of the ship himself. And the problem with the captain of the ship himself was that the captain of the ship himself was so ridiculously abusive that he was the one who inspired the mutiny. And this was during an era where usually the way you got hoodwinked into military naval service was you got drunk on at a bar, and you woke up hundreds of miles out at sea with no idea how to swim. So that's the kind of stakes that a mutiny had back in the day. Also, to be fair, Gov, now that I have told that whole story about that crazy-ass book that I read when I was younger, these deer are also giving me the toolboxes that I need to restore the Forester's Lodge. So these deer probably, you know, I'm not going to say they're safe for me to interact with like this, but they're probably sapient. Yeah, they're part of the Union. They probably have the Union cards if I asked to see them, but I'm not going to do that. That'd be kind of a faux pas, I think. Yeah, see? Oh, they own the lodge. Okay, yeah, no, they're definitely part of the union. Oh, God. Okay, we have to go help some pandas. I hate pandas. They're worthless. They found themselves an ecological niche, which is being a carnivorous hyperpredator that survives by not being carnivorous. And that's fine. I understand that. But here's the problem. They don't fuck. And we can't make them fuck anymore. We can't, we have to, it's time for us to say goodbye to pandas. If I am elected, we will say goodbye to pandas forever. I'm sick of them. I am gonna give this guy a pet, though. Pet. Here, have some delicious bonsai tree. You know, something you cannot eat. You know, I really don't think we should be growing these trees until they turn pink, because that means we're just gonna have to come back here in a week in order to reflower all of these trees. Because cherry blossoms just immediately fall off of the tree once they turn that beautiful pink color. They're there for like 3 days and then they immediately fall away. Like literally one of the most common things they talk about with the beauty of the cherry blossom is how they are so beautifully ephemeral and they fall from the vine at the peak of their beauty. And that's cool, I guess. Huh? I got an achievement called foreshadowing. What? Oh. Okay. The achievement description, it just seems out of place, doesn't it? I guess we're gonna see some llamas or alpacas soon. Here's the problem with saying confidently that that's a llama or an alpaca. I don't know exactly what they look like. And I don't want to disrespect alpaca likers because I think they're good people. I've again started learning how to hand spin yarn recently, and one of the things that I've sort of come to appreciate as I've learned how to hand spin yarn is that making yarn and knitting things is really hard on your hands. So like when people talk about it being women's work, like the reason why we think of old spinster women as having arthritis is because that shit hurt. And like back before the Industrial Revolution, the only way that you would get a lace doily is if grandma sat around hand weaving together individual lace fibers and then knitting the doily. So like, yeah, historically it has been treated as women's work, but if you think that means it's easy, I dare you to try and spin some yarn. Like, you'll peel your fingertips if you don't moisturize properly. Because like the fibers just suck the moisture out of your finger very slowly over time. I wonder if you could make yarn out of panda fur. They don't seem like they'd have very long fur. I don't think they would have the sort of fiber length required to make yarn. But I know they make, you know, there's people who make all sorts of weird, like, cat yarn and stuff. I have seen human yarn. A lot of the time it'll be used to bind books, like when they make books out of human skin in order to honor a dead monk or something. And historically, like, human flesh books are not made, like, to house dark secrets or truths or something. They're usually the favorite book of the guy like, the book was made out of, because he was made into a book because he spent his whole life hand copying books, you know? The Human Flesh book is an act of dedication, if you really think about it. And I don't mean that in a creepy way where it's like I show my love by making you into a lampshade. I'm not that kind of dog yet. I don't know if they've released a murder core for me. I might pick it up depending on the kind of gaming performance it gives me if I install it. I'm pretty sure I have a separately isolatable killing and biting core, so I can just turn that off when I have the murder core in. Because the killing and biting core doesn't make me any better at gaming. And Waterbot is once again just struggling. He really just wants to be my disappointment son, huh? I'm going to upgrade Waterbot with my next upgrade. Also, yeah, I think the pandas are disappointed in me because I'm not cleaning the garbage off of them faster. That's why I think we have to get rid of pandas, because I think all of our programs to, like, fly them on planes and make them have sex and, like, buy them mimosas and gently massage them so they feel comfortable. Like, I think that's indicative of the fact we just have to get rid of them, you know? Because they're not gonna pull their weight. And I know a lot of biologists are mostly in agreement with me on that point, but, like, I can't imagine being the guy from the Ministry of Tourism or whatever who has to sit around, like, literally moving the panda's hips for it while they're having sex so that panda babies happen, you know? I'm literally turning into the fucking villain from the Lorax when I'm talking about pandas, I just realized. I'm so sorry, I did not mean to turn into the villain from the Lorax and get all edgy and just be like, fucking let it die. You know, I like free-to-play roguelikes as much as anyone else. But, maybe we don't actually have to let it die. Maybe that's a little too mean. Oh no, I'm being charged with intimidation and trespassing by the pandas? Oh yeah, Gub and I found a video series recently. I'm just gonna give this random YouTuber a free plug because I think they deserve it. There's a guy I found recently. He did a series of videos entitled Sentencing the Illumination Villains as if it were real life. And he went through all of the various cartoon antics of Gru and the minions and whatnot, and sentenced them for the crimes committed. And while I disagree with their conclusions with regard to Gru and his minions, because the minions are not legally people, and therefore Gru cannot be punished for harming them, I do find their videos enthralling, and I do believe that Aloysius O'Hare should in fact be charged for intimidation, trespassing, graffiti on private property, and most damningly of all, the violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act. Oh look, it's Aloysius O'Hare. A man who made a cameo appearance in the film Con Air. In Universe B, at least. In Universe B, Con Air was a much better film. Yeah, Waterbot's really, Waterbot does not appear to be able to water things through other things, I'm noticing. Bless his heart, he tries his best. You know, when they say trash panda, I don't think they're literally referring to pandas sitting in trash. A Disney or Illumination villain that we can charge with perjury. So, the only villain that I can think of from any animated movie that could maybe be charged with perjury is the lawyer from B Movie. Because the lawyer from B Movie is explicitly, like, I believe he does engage in witness manipulation that does cause them to commit perjury. And I believe there would be a legal case for charging him with perjury by proxy. I don't know if that is a real legal charge. You could definitely charge him with improper courtroom conduct, though, just because of the way that he behaved towards Barry. Like, the fact that the B's in B Movie were self-representing was really a lot of his case, because they could have objected to a lot of his behavior. Like, I'm not a lawyer. Nothing I say is legal advice, just to cover my ass. But, like, a lot of the ways he was acting in that courtroom, I believe, from my knowledge of law, would be considered improper and would be objectionable offenses. A lot of the questions that he asks to Barry, for instance, I believe would qualify as leading or combative questions. Lawyers are not allowed to just ask questions to annoy you. They're allowed to do other things. Like, I actually heard one of the lawyers that deposed everyone's favorite real human with blood who's coming, Alex Jones. One of the lawyers in that case apparently just ate gummy worms the whole time his partner was deposing him. Because you're allowed to just do things that are weird as long as you don't make any noise or, like, bother the witness. You're not supposed to, but you are allowed to eat in a courtroom if you want to be disrespectful, specifically to flex on someone. So, apparently back in the day when you were allowed to smoke inside, there was a Texas lawyer who he had a technique where he would straighten a paperclip and he would stick that paperclip down his cigarette. And what that would do is it would keep the ash from falling off of his cigarette because there was a metal paperclip inside supporting it and keeping it up from the inside. And what he would do from there is he would smoke that cigarette during his opponent's opening statement. And he would smoke and smoke and smoke, and this ash would get longer and longer and longer. And everyone in the courtroom would end up just staring at him, waiting for the ash to drop off of his cigarette. And it wouldn't, because there was, you know, there was a paperclip inside of it supporting it. And then everyone was paying attention to him smoking his cigarette, and then not his opponent, giving their, like, opening or closing statement. And you may find that scummy and unethical, but considering the fact that you can't call people shit-faces in a courtroom, that's the closest thing you're ever gonna get to being able to get revenge in a courtroom, you know? I mean, like, you can call someone a shit-face in a courtroom, but I think they like, object and are like, God, you called my client a poopy-poop boy. Objection, poopy-poop boy. Or if you're in England, you know, you have to prove with hard evidence that they are a poopy poop boy, because otherwise it's slander. You know, for instance, if you're in England, you aren't able to say, you know, the Prime Minister is a drunkard who likes to chug his own piss. That would be considered slander in Britain. But you are allowed to say, I heard that it is rumored he's a drunkard who drinks his own piss. Word on the street is he's a drunkard who drinks his own piss. But if you call someone drunk, you can actually be sued in British media, which is why, British media has a euphemism for it, where they instead describe you as tired and emotional. And apparently that is the agreed-upon British euphemism for, you know, they were drunk. Or they were probably drunk. We can't prove it because they weren't charged with public intoxication by the police. And we don't want to be struck with a literal perjury suit and defamation. Which I think is incredible. Because for the most part in America, the standard of evidence, as I have learned recently watching a lot of depositions, is so much lower. As long as people weren't materially harassed, like as long as you haven't harassed private citizens, you can do whatever you want and say whatever you want, as long as it doesn't materially harm someone's career. Like, you can basically say whatever you want about American politicians because of the way that our messed up constitution is set up. But like in Britain, you have to prove that the Prime Minister likes the taste of his own piss if you say it. Anyway, I'm gonna leave Waterbot over here with this little patch of plants. We're gonna see if Waterbot can finally pull his weight in the most optimal, most upgraded setting that he could possibly have. I will say I appreciate that this level restrained itself from doing, like, the racist, you know, zither plucks that you get for Asian levels a lot of the time, where the entirety of the scale is in the pentatonic scale for some reason. There's a specific pentatonic fifth where it is definitely, we are implying that this area is Chinese or Japanese. And I say Chinese or Japanese because most games do not make a distinction, though I do not believe there are Japanese pandas. So I believe this would in fact have to be China. Though I would love to find out that I'm wrong about that and that there's actually, like, secretly, you know, there's the Japanese panda, which is separate from the red panda, which I know exists. You just have the Japanese panda, it's just a quarter of the size, and it does eat meat, so it's more like a prolifically successful squirrel. Actually, hey Gub, new engineered urban pest idea. Squirrel, but it looks like a panda and eats meat. I think that could really get somewhere, you know? Could really carve out an ecological niche with that one. Oh, I did describe a raccoon. Can we make the sequel to raccoons? Is that an option we have? Oh. Sorry, why is the civet the sequel to raccoons exactly? I know that civets are a variety of mustelids, so they are those cute little noodles who will fucking get you. But, what makes them, You know, I haven't seen a civet. Let's all look at an image of a civet, everyone. Oh, wow. Yeah. Never mind, that is raccoons, too. He just doesn't have the little hands. And I will say, I think raccoons actually lose a couple points for having the little hands. Just because, like, those little hands, they have to be dipped in water to work, apparently. They just don't work unless they're wet, which is why raccoons do the little washing thing and why they're referred to as washing bears. Wait, what? Hyenas have been reclassified. Am I going to have to update my taxonomy metadata? For those of you who aren't aware, I have to have taxonological nominal. I have to have metadata that declares what species I am. It's an old Arcovian statute that I still haven't worked around. My thick neck, my thick meaty neck is because I am technically a member of the Hyenidae family. They're my favorite animal. What have they been reclassified as? What? Viverate? What? Does this have something to do with the fact that they have a pouch? That name better not have anything to do with the fact that they have pouches. Because I know there's one variety of hyena that has a weird birthing sac. What? What? No, what? I can't fucking believe this. Whoa, the otter civet. He is standing. He is standing. I love taxidermy that actually manages to capture the vague bewilderment of the taxidermied animal in question. Because, like, bad taxidermy has its place. Bad taxidermy can be very, very funny. But good taxidermy, I feel like, has to sort of capture the fact that animals kind of look silly sometimes. Like, a lot of otters and stuff, when they're just standing there, if they're not, like, baring their fangs or, like, making a noise or trying to attack you, I feel like a lot of otters are pretty cute animals, but they also, like... The only way I can explain this is they look like they're about to say, hey, what's up, whenever you see them. Not, like, judgmentally, but not friendly either. Just, you know, you have entered an area that is near a civet, near an otter, near a marmot. It has looked at you, and it has gone, hey, what's up? And I know that's not true in real life, because in real life, I know those guys fucking... Apparently, weasels will bite so hard that you will sometimes, if you go bird hunting, you will find birds of prey with weasel bones still stuck on them. Or at least that is how the legends go. I don't know if that's true. I'd like to believe it's true. I'm going to believe it's true. I'm going to make it true in my own pocket reality. That is why I am a pocket reactor in the way that I am. Because if I want to make weasels too, I can. Also, I guess I'm gonna get the bad upgrades now. There's the vacuum bot, but he's really not terribly helpful. Alright. These pandas are going to survive another 12 to 13 minutes because of my efforts. Alright, now we're going to Japan. Now we're getting to the animals I really like. We're getting to the fucking cranes at the onsen. Hell yeah. I love cranes. The Crane Monastery. Alright. Posebot. You are my fail son. I will leave you here with my other fail son, Hooverbot. Let the water guide you, yeah. No, I didn't really want to comment on all of the incredibly cheesy Japan references that were in that letter. Sorry, did I say water instead of what? I'm sorry, I'm just thinking about water because of this game. Yeah, I don't think you should let a kitsune guide you. That is one of the things that I think explicitly you should not let happen. Well, I know that there are the Inari Kitsune, which are technically the messengers of the gods, but I think those ones are still, like, mischievous enough that for the most part you shouldn't really listen to what they say. Because they'll, like, mess with you in order to get fried tofu dumplings, you know? I guess, okay. We are at a shrine, we are in an onsen. These ones are sanctified. So, you know, like, it's not as bad, like, it's still bad advice, but it is not as bad of advice as follow that pretty woman with the 9 tails into the forest. No, we promise it will go okay. They are at least referring to the messenger spirits with that one. I really hope this game doesn't have way more chapters than I expected, and it has like 30 or 40, and not like the 10 or 11 that I'm pretty sure it has. There may come a point where I need to take a cleaning break in order to go see Gub off because she's going on a salvage run. Because we need more plasma cannons. For reasons. Really, I feel like I don't need to give you the reasons for the plasma cannons. Like, I feel like a plasma cannon is a possession that justifies itself, you know? Like a cool car. Like, I don't think you should own a car in general, but I can't really say, like... I can't really say too much because I do own the sequel to Cars, which is a spaceship. We are fuel efficient, at least, compared to most cars. So there's that. Yeah, the ends justify the means with a plasma cannon, and also sometimes the ends are the means because, like, you get a plasma cannon, and then you can turn one plasma cannon into 2 plasma cannons by blowing up another ship and taking their plasma cannon. I also hear that plasma cannons are windproof, unlike, you know, your traditional butane flamethrower. So if you need to light your cigarettes when it's raining out, you're gonna want to go with the plasma cannon instead of the flamethrower. You know, I said that as a joke, but I will say I do think one of the coolest inventions that I have seen in recent years is just the plasma lighter, where it just uses a battery and arcs a tiny bit of electricity to light your cigarette or whatever. I think those are really, really cool. Especially because, like, you know, my first thought when I saw one of those was like, oh, wouldn't it be really easy to shock yourself? Couldn't you hurt yourself really badly? And technically you could if it weren't for the fact that, like, basically human flesh and, well, to a lesser extent void puppy flesh, because I am a superconductor, they have a very specific capacitance to them that, like, if your current is tuned in a very specific way, you actually won't end up with any issues of electrocution, it'll just burn. And I will say, in addition to the practical aspect of it, there's also the very cool aspect. A lot of those plasma lighters are set up in such a way where, like, the plasma draws a little figure 8 out of the plasma. Just as, like, you know, just to be cool. Because apparently, like, if they set up the electrodes in a specific way, it will, like, give it a shape. I've always been of the opinion that as long as you can do things that are cool and ethical. They don't have to have a point necessarily, you know? Like, I feel like there are a lot of people who, when they approach like technology and like, you know, like, oh, if I ran the zoo, we would have hats that look like the monkeys, that sort of like product design stuff. Like, I feel like a lot of people approach it from the perspective of like, oh, we have AI text processing. How can we shoehorn AI text processing into everything, completely like throwing away morals in the process? But like, I don't want the efficiency. I don't want to see how it can be applied to business. I want to see how you can use the AI to make a silly little Discord chat bot that calls your friend a slut to their face. You know? Like, I've been seeing a lot of screenshots lately floating around. I believe there was a new public API for Discord chatbots released, and it got pretty popular on TikTok. So people are just building AI chatbots for their Discord chats, and they don't do anything. They don't, like, they're not an AI assistant. They don't, like, order things off of Amazon while harvesting your personal data. They don't do anything like that. It's just a robot in your server. You can ask Harry Potter what he thinks about beans, and it'll be like, oh, beans? Oh, I'm not a very good franchise. Alakazam! Or whatever the fuck Harry Potter sounds like. You know, there's a long gap between him speaking, because he has to think very hard. Well, he could say more, but, you know, you do have to train him off of the dialogue of characters, so, like, that's all you're gonna get if you take any of the writing from those fucking novels. I'm considering seeing what, dialogue datasets are publicly available and setting one up for the Void Sorrow, just because I know that there is, there are dialogue datasets for some anime characters. And if I could get, like, a robust dataset of the Immortal Tatsu, I would love to be able to ask the Immortal Tatsu for advice. Sorry, there's a PS1 Harry Potter... I thought we got rid of him. Did we not? I guess we have a technical use for the plasma cannon now, because I'm gonna need to get rid of him. Oh, that makes sense. Hey, actually, you know, as a trans person, I have a lot of complicated feelings about Harry Potter, because J.K. Rowling keeps putting her head up her butt. But I do think it would actually be a fun stream to play one of, like, the very weird and janky PS1 Harry Potter games. I think that might actually be kind of an interesting stream, if only for the fact that, you know, I've seen videos where they get into the console and mess around with it, and that seems like it could be a fun laugh. I distinctly have memories of when I was a younger kid. I played the Harry Potter PS2 game, and I got to the Quidditch level, and never passed that point. Because, oh my god, fly through the rings, Harry. Fly through those rings, my boy. That being said, Hogwarts Legacy looks very bad, and I'm excited for how bad it looks. Just because it refuses to, like, address any of its own internal world building. Like, for instance, you know, Harry Potter had an invisibility cloak, and his invisibility cloak was really important and special, and it was worth a lot of money. They made canon later because it's apparently made from a sloth that can see the future or whatever. So you have to hunt a sloth that can see the future. But also apparently there's a spell that makes you invisible. So why do you need a cloak? What do you need the cape for? Because, like, if you're gonna say, like, oh, you need the cape in order to, like, be able to attack people without the invisibility going away. No, you don't. Because, like, you can't attack a person from underneath a fucking cloak anyway. Not while it's covering you. If the sloth can see the future, why can it also turn invisible? Surely it could just avoid you. Okay, Waterbot, make me proud, or don't. I really don't care what you do anymore. You know, it's funny, I'm thinking about what the guidance of the Kitsune would probably be in a non-supernatural context. And really the only thing I can come up with is you see the big rock and the statue that indicates the onsen is nearby and you are no longer lost in the woods. Which I guess is pretty good guidance, all things considered. Alright, grab up those lanterns, head out here. Oh, I was wondering where the rest of these teacups were, and now I'm realizing that they're all clustered together because the goddamn guests didn't clean up their fucking teacups. What the fuck, man? That's disrespectful. Clean up your goddamn teacups. What are you trying to spray at through the... Is there something on the outside here? Ah. The muck. The slop. Anything else? This is gonna be an invisible hitbox that I'm not able to find. Waterbot. Waterbot knows and feels nothing. There's apparently one dirt splat left in this cottage. I do not know where. Oop. Outside. Okay, so Waterbot is useful for one thing, which is AI echolocation of dirt splatters. You can smell that shit through the walls. Okay, I have to go find a third teacup. How did they separate the set? These guests are the worst. Alright, Waterbot. Make me disappointed. Hey, since I'm thinking about PS1 Harry Potter, wasn't there a QuickTime event in one of the PS1 or PS2 Harry Potter games that was literally a don't get strangled QTE? And you had to literally mash X to not be strangled to death? Because I know that that was a scene that happened in the Harry Potter films, and I think probably in the books, considering its prevalence in the adaptations. But, like, the villain could do magic. Why didn't he just do magic and kill him? Was he like, I need to take time to strangle Harry Potter for fun? That's messed up, man. Is that dope going to be followed by think about it? Or is this just a Scarfolk style don't? Where after January 22nd it will now be illegal. So whatever you do, don't. Like, that's the thing. I think it would be very funny. Like, I'm not holding out hope for Hogwarts Legacy being good. I know it's gonna be bad. I know its plot's gonna be bad. I know it's gonna suck. I'm holding out hope that they will finally address a plot point that I don't think they have ever addressed. You know, it was a plot point, they sort of got at it in, you know, this was something they also pivoted towards in Legend of Korra, basically, which is the people who are not special and gifted use the fact that they have technology to mess with the people who are special and gifted. And people already kind of didn't like Legend of Korra for various reasons, and it was very controversial among Avatar fans and all that stuff. But I do want to see them try and reconcile the absolute train wreck of why doesn't any evil wizard just buy a gun? Because, like, sure, you can say that, like, you know, good wizards don't use guns because it's considered impolite or immoral or whatever. But, like, if you're an evil wizard, the only reason you wouldn't use a gun is because you're like, oh, wizards are better than non-wizards, so I will never use a gun as a wizard because I'm, ooh. And, like, that's stupid. Because surely there'll be one wizard out there who's stupid enough, or, like, just rude enough to just be like, alright, here's my wand. It is a polymer frame Glock with a lead and gunpowder core. It allows me to cast the spell, I have shot Voldemort in the heart with a gun. I know you have, like, the Horcruxes and the, like, you know, Voldemort can come back from the dead because he has all of these magic objects that are pieces of his soul. But, like, what if I just cut his head off with an axe and keep his immortal head in a jar? Like, I haven't killed him. I mean, Gub, what you have just said is quite literally all wizards are British people in that they respect the government even when the government tells them to eat dirt, which I guess could be canon. Yeah, you know, I hear if we keep all of the same oppressive systems in place, but we just put the kids in charge of oppression, that will somehow fix the problem. I don't know how, but I hear and I think that that is the case. If we don't actually have meaningful change, I think everything will just naturally get better. Oh, wait. I don't. Anyway, it's time for me to restore nature to its previous glory. Holy shit! I forgot this was an onsen for cranes! I'm going to go touch this crane, even though he could definitely, like, pet me in the heart and I'd die. Pat, pat. What? Oh. Do not pet the crane. The crane does not want to be pet. Well, nature is restored. Are you sure I can't pet the crane? Because I know there's an achievement for petting all of the animals in the game. I don't want to miss the crane achievement. Can I put the crane in my vacuum? No. Well. Level up! Cranes are now untouchable. Oh man, that should be one of my redeems when I finally actually make partner and get access to redeems. You can just play the quake kill sound effects. So like I'm in the middle of playing a horror game like Outlast or something, and like I'm hiding in a closet, I'm just like, oh god, I'm so scared. And then we just hear out of nowhere, monster kill. And I just start crying. That'd be good. Like, I like the stream token redeems that streamers have where they're, like, stupid. Like, I know there's a streamer who one of his stream token redeems is quite literally, for a couple of tokens, you can play a sound effect of the voice from Metal Gear Solid 5's UI saying something stupid. Like, you can literally have that robot voice from the iDroid just say, like, pee is stored in the balls on his stream for enough coins, I'm pretty sure. Yeah! Not the Seinfeld wah, that would be, wait, hang on. When you say Seinfeld wah, is that different from the Tim the Toolman Taylor, Because I don't want Tim the Toolman Taylor on my stream. Because he made a show about how cool it is to be a Republican, and I don't want to support him even in meme. Also, this is going to be the last level of this I play for now, and then we are going to take a short break. I forgot if I said that or if I got distracted. Also, oh god, the eucalyptus trees are on fire. That's a real fucking problem. They're gonna... Oh. Waterbot, no, we're in danger, dude. We gotta hurry. Oh no. Alright, I'm not actually going to keep that bit up of putting the trees out as fast as possible because I will lose track of where I am. But, I don't think the devs of this game know that eucalyptus trees literally explode when they, are overheated. Eucalyptus trees are full of eucalyptus oil. It's that stuff that makes tea tree shampoo smell good. Like, it burns very explosively, so literally one of the major dangers to koalas are wildfires, because when wildfires happen, the trees that koalas are on start exploding and killing them horribly. He wants a bowl of water. I will update these wildfires away. You know, I have to say, I understand why the devs made this game from a perspective of just, like, gameplay, because it is very fun to just clean up a ruined environment and slowly restore it. Like, I've been playing another game on my own time called World War II Rebuilder, which is literally just you're rebuilding buildings in Britain after the Blitz. And you're just shoveling up rubble and, like, rebuilding plot blocks and stuff. And it's all quite cool. But there's, like... There's an element to the ethos of this game that I don't necessarily agree with, and I am almost kind of horrified with, which is Isn't it so relaxing to simulate undoing the grievous harm that has been done to our planet over time? And I don't know if that's something that they were harping on, or if that was, you know, just the sort of background aesthetic, but it's definitely what it feels like it might be. I guess this river will probably be restored with me leveling up nature. I don't think they're going to let me just blast the river back into place, actually. I will say, this game has given me a great idea for a new terraforming tool, which is the blast hose. You know, we just have a hose and we build it so that we can just blast all of the problems. Endangered bird, you hit it with the water and then it turns into 2 birds. Endangered animal, you blast it with the water, it turns into 2 animals. Endangered plant, it will die if you turn the pressure hose onto it. Maybe don't blast plants with it. That one we still haven't figured out. Also, I will say, I'm not sure if these koalas are actually going to drink the water that I bring to them, just because, like, they're too stupid to eat eucalyptus that's in a bowl. Well, I mean, what do you mean in terms of safe for organic organisms? Just because they turn into a cartoon afterwards doesn't mean it's not safe. It just means it turns them into a cartoon afterwards. It's basically Bendy and the Ink Machine, but, like, nice. Which, you know, now that I think about it, having seen some gameplay of, Bendy and the Dark Revival, I'm actually kind of thinking about, like, all of the NPCs in those games where it was implied that when they were trapped inside of the demon time loop in the first game, they just started, like, doing their job as normal. Like, they didn't notice that they were trapped in, like, a weird demonic time loop. And now with Bendy and the Dark Revival making it canon that the Ink Machine slowly produces, like, a Prohibition-era suburb to go with the Ink Machine, I can kind of see why all of the NPCs were like that now. Because if I eventually figured out that I was inside of, like, the domain of the vile Ink Demon, I would also eventually just be like, alright, fuck it. Time to spend this cycle eating hamburgers. Like, I would definitely get to the point where I was also just standing around, like, some random guy who proclaimed himself King of Fuck Mountain and, like, held gladiatorial fistfights, because I'm immortal, you know? Here you go, Waterbot. You can help me, Waterbot. My helpful little lad. He does his best. Oh, I'm glad those fires weren't real. I wonder where the fuck these koalas' water bowls are. They told me to find their water bowls, but, what the fuck? What the fuck is going on here? Something's deeply wrong. No, I'm pretty sure the Aboriginal people of Australia are not in fact koalas. I'm pretty sure there were also people there. I'm a little disquieted by this archaeological discovery. Alright, I am saving up for the water blast next, because the rest of the upgrades are kind of pointless in my opinion. You don't need multiple slots of inventory space, I don't think. Okay, I need a saw to clear that, apparently. I guess part of my firefighting responsibilities are, in fact, fire breaking the trees. You know, it's funny how, like, chill this music is for the fact that we are, like, within the context of the game, they were like, "Ah, please help us fight the Australian wildfires!" And, like, Australian wildfires are some of the deadliest natural disasters that happen in the region. I would not prefer doom metal, but I think we could maybe have, like, I don't know. We could have one of the darker Kevin MacLeod songs. Like the bass line here where it's like like that's good, but like the flute is a little too whimsical for what's going on right now. It's a little bit Adventures in the Fairy Forest for me, if I'm being honest. Are fairies koalas? Like, is that something we're gonna have to hash out when we go back to Australia for diplomatic meetings? Did they join one of the fairy courts? Alright, we have to use our hacksaw carefully. As everyone knows, hacksaws are completely disposable objects. That's why their blades are replaceable, because if you cut literally one object with them, you have to get a new one entirely. You know, back before we had removable hacksaw blades, you literally did have to, you know, throw away the wooden-handled carpenter saw after you used it once. It's a damn shame. That pop was it. It doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. Its molecules removed from reality, and thusly entropy is mildly accelerated. Oh boy, another handsaw. Thank God, my last one just disappeared from reality. Time to accelerate entropy some more. I love the non-spread of the fire in this game. That's actually very funny to me. Waterbot, can you not put out fires? Are you not a certified firefighter? Guess not. I have a mild complaint, which is I think the vacuum could also probably put out fires. I know that if you vacuum up fire in real life, your vacuum cleaner will explode horribly and maim you because dust is incredibly flammable. But I have a feeling our magic vacuum cleaner should be powerful enough to deprive these fires of oxygen, you know? maybe not the trees. The trees are still full of eucalyptus oil, which again, should be actually burning quite a lot more violently than the game is letting on. It's weird, the Australian outback is such a dry place, and then it's also just full of trees that explode. Oh wow, they finally updated Mr. Clean's magic eraser to work on fire. Shit. Maybe that's the real magic. It's not just an incredibly powerful scouring pad because of the material it's made out of. It also makes fires not happen. You know, I can't substantiate this, but I have the strangest feeling that if you actually lit a Mr. Clean magic eraser on fire, that motherfucker would burn like nothing else. Especially like, if you grated it down really finely. So like, you know how when you scrub against the surface too hard with the magic eraser, it'll sometimes like make the magic eraser start flaking off little white bits and it'll turn into magic eraser dust, basically? Like, pretty sure. Like, I'm not 100% sure. I can't prove this. But I'm pretty sure that stuff's flammable. I have a feeling it's one of those things like coffee creamer, like you don't expect it to be flammable, but it definitely is. In like just a disgusting way. If you don't know this, powdered coffee creamer, because it is just like, you know, powdered carbohydrates. But, a secret. The ancient technology of, whatever that thing is. Camera rock? Is this... That looks like... I don't know. That looks like a... potentially a pre-made asset that they didn't know where to put. So they just kind of shrunk it down and put it in as an Easter egg? I don't know. It looks like something from Dawn of War. I think if you try to do that, Mr. Clean asks what you're doing with his eraser. Oh, I didn't know that he knew what I was doing with his erasers. Why didn't you tell me? Sorry, he has perfect awareness of his body at all times. Bug? Bug. Gub? Gub. Gub bug? The bug who is Gub and the Gub who is Bug? My darling. My sweet shipmate. My GPU. My graphics processor. Is the magic eraser Mr. Clean meat? Is that what you're saying? Because I don't like that. Sure, the eraser is made of condensed clean. Are you saying that Mr. Clean cannot just manifest condensed clean? He has to slice chunks of it from himself, like perfectly compressed fucking patties of cleanliness? What are you... I think Mr. Clean is something that I can't reconcile with now that you're describing him to me. His eyebrows? Hey Gub, when you said if I do all of my digital chores, we can go to digital pizza later. I need Mr. Clean's not gonna be there, is he? Okay. Yeah, okay, Pizza Land, gross and dirty. I expected as much. I don't think Mr. Clean would get along with entertainment cheese industries, but you never know, you know? I'm not sure how they want me to restore the flow of a river. I'm just going to assume that, like, a funny cartoon rock has fallen into the river instead of, like, what's probably the case, which is the horrifying drought that Australia just is. And I don't mean is experiencing. The whole fucking country is just a drought. If you live there and you're not one of the Aboriginal people, maybe consider moving away. Because, like, this is not even a social issue. I don't think you should live in Australia. I don't think human life should live in Australia. And I think the only people who, like, really should have to deal with living in Australia are the people who randomly spawned there in universe creation, you know? Like, the thing that has always bothered me greatly about the notion of settler colonialism when I hear about it, you know, when I hear about humans engaging in it, and I saw it a lot, you know, with the Arkovian Empire too, is that they want to take over places that they don't even want. Like, you know, you hear about the British Empire and how the British Empire took over India, you know, for instance. And then you hear about how the British people would just be like, I hate it here. It's too hot. And I have to eat tree bark so I don't get malaria. And it's just like, why are you here? There were people here who wanted to be here. And then you came here and you killed all of those people. And now you mailed all of your fail sons there? Like, I refuse to believe that they needed a place to put their fail sons so badly, you know? Yeah, exactly. Spice access status, everything. Breakfast status, beans on toast. Like, literally deciding to not enjoy the fruits of your horrible, horrible imperialism because the commoners might think you're like them. You know, we did all of this work to get the pepper, and we're not even putting it in our food. The mayonnaise is just a bit spicy, is all I'm saying. And, like, that's the thing that really upsets me. People who like mayonnaise. Like, mayonnaise is a very controversial ingredient. I will accept that it is controversial. It is not for everyone. It is not necessarily for me. But some people really like mayonnaise, and they're allowed to like it. But I am of the opinion that mayonnaise is improved by making it Chipotle. But there are so many people I know who are disgusted by the idea of a Chipotle mayo, or like a hot mayo, or like putting spiciness in your mayo. And it's like, they'll talk about how they don't want a Chipotle mayo, but then they'll also put peppers on their sandwich. And it's like, is the issue that the flavors are mixed together? Or do you need the ergonomics of having a gross little crunchy wet thing in your sandwich? Because, like, I don't think peppers add to the texture experience of a sandwich. Yeah, and no, like, mayo has its place as a spice dampener, but here's my argument for Chipotle mayo. My argument for Chipotle mayo is that Chipotle mayo is also good as a spice dampener because when you are eating the part of the mayo that is Chipotle, you're also getting, like, the milk and egg fats from the mayonnaise, and it helps, you know, it helps calm the raging Chipotle beast, you know? So like there's an argument to be made for mayonnaise as a spice dampener, but I think even then you can even use chipotle mayo. And yeah, oh okay. I have found the most pointless debate in the world recently that I guess I can close out the stream by making you all aware of as we finish up this last area of Australia and clean everything up, right? I encountered recently a very strange internet argument about food. And a lot of people have internet arguments about food that are really stupid. Which is like... Yeah, spicy mayo I don't think you can eat cold unless it's on something hot. French fries with spicy mayo, I think that's good because you have the heat of the French fry to warm you. Cold spicy mayo on a cold sandwich is kind of depressing. I will cede that point. You are correct about that. But the subsection of people that I have discovered, the new pineapple on pizza people for me, because recently I saw an article where Gordon Ramsay talked about like all the stuff that he won't put on food, and one of the things that he said he wouldn't put on food is he wouldn't put pineapple on pizza, and if you put pineapple on pizza, you're an asshole and an idiot. And that's how I know Gordon Ramsay's full of shit. He may have Michelin stars, and I'm sure he knows haute cuisine. He knows nothing of pizza. Nothing. The man won't even eat insects. He's afraid of eating crickets. He finds them gross. So the man knows nothing. But this argument that I have found the periphery of that really annoys the shit out of me is this argument that people have been making specifically. For a long time, everyone's argument was like, oh, you need to use mayonnaise on your grilled cheeses or on your toasted sandwiches because when you toast the mayonnaise, it makes it delicious and moist and greasy and good. And those people got a little bit annoying because they would be like, you know, they would get really aggressive about it and like tell people like, oh, if you don't make your grilled cheese with mayonnaise instead of butter, you're a fucking idiot asshole who deserves death. And that's also stupid, right? You shouldn't act like that. But now, those same sorts of people back around, and I have seen repeatedly the take online where people are like, oh, you shouldn't put mayonnaise on your sandwiches when you toast them because the mayonnaise makes them too moist. And the oil, when you heat it, separates out of the mayonnaise and it becomes too wet. And that's bad because we don't want our sandwich to be tender and delicious? I don't know what the thinking is. But it makes me so upset because it's this debate where people are like taking sides and they take sides so hard and so angrily. And it's just make food however you want, man. I think mayonnaise is superior personally, but at the end of the day, if you're one of those people who's like, you should jump off a cliff if you put butter on your grilled cheese, no, it's fine. It's okay. That's the thing. I think the one argument that you can make for proper grilled cheese preparation, the one rule of proper grilled cheese preparation is if you don't have American singles, I think you should mix your cheese. Because American singles are kind of a nasty, gross sort of, you know, like, they're a wet grossness that is the perfect kind of gross to put on a grilled cheese. I think the American single is one of the best types of cheese to put on a grilled cheese. But if you don't have an American single, I think you then have to go for, like, the flavorful grilled cheese where you have it on, like, a hearty sourdough. And, like, you put, like, mixed, like, gorgonzola and feta. You know? And yeah, like that's the thing. The video that I saw was very firmly asserting, like, Oh, if you use mayonnaise on your grilled cheese, it'll always end up bad because the oil will separate and then your sandwich will get all wet and nasty. But like, grilled mayonnaise doesn't separate when you heat it. It's emulsified. So what I'm thinking that person did is they had enough mayonnaise on their bread that they boiled their bread in mayonnaise, and they had, I'm gonna say a phrase that's kind of disgusting. They had a mayonnaise broiled grilled cheese. Yeah. I wonder if you can mayonnaise broil steak. I know people, I know one of my favorite YouTube channels is Guga Foods because he'll like wrap a steak in peanut butter and then dry age it for an entire month. But like, okay, a duck would, yeah, no, that makes sense. Because steak doesn't do too well with mayonnaise because of like, I feel like high-fat cooking doesn't really serve steak too well when at the end of the day. Like a lot of people will just cook it in like a little bit of butter. I can see why it'd be duck. I think duck, for the most part, has a very mild flavor. And it's a very tough, gamey meat because ducks are very active. I think that's why they might do it, if I had to guess. All right. We can finally leave this horrible place and these horrible koalas. I don't know if you know this, but koalas are horrible. They're stinky, they bite. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I know for a fact that this game has something like 11 levels in it. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to take a small break. And I promise, I promise, I'm gonna finish my doing my chores once Gub is off on her salvage mission for the plasma cannons. And we're gonna go to pizza later. I'm gonna be a good dog, and I'm going to earn going to pizza. And we're going to now view the All Dimensions Wiki on Mr. Clean, who is a disciple, of course, of the dude with a mop. I see. Dangerous avatar of the Cleaniverse. Of course. Earth changed his life. He invented the magic eraser, the best cleaning tool in all the galaxy. Hey, I was just going to pick up a picture. I was just going to look for a picture of Mr. Clean so that I could just have a picture of Mr. Clean on the stream as I wrapped up stream. We are absolutely doing a stream where we look at this wiki. This appears to be a wiki where anyone can edit it to make pages about the multiverse as long as it has a certain amount of quality. And that certain amount of quality is dictated by fandom wikis. So we get Dude with the Mop. Gub, after we go to pizza, we're doing an All Dimensions wiki stream. You have to hold me to that. Good night for now, I guess. Well, I'll be back.